This is the story of how Blake Lively went from filing a massive lawsuit against her co-star to watching a federal judge tear apart 10 of her 13 claims. In a 152-page ruling that left her legal team scrambling and Hollywood insiders calling her persona non grata. Let's rewind to 2019, when Justin Baldoni acquired the film rights to Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel It Ends With Us through his production company Wayfarer Studios. By January 2023, Blake Lively landed the lead role as Lily Bloom, and everything looked like it was shaping up to be one of the biggest films of 2024. And honestly, it was. The movie raked in $351 million worldwide against a $25 million budget. That's a $207 million profit. By every financial metric, this film crushed it. But behind the scenes, things were falling apart spectacularly. The drama became impossible to ignore during the film's premiere at AMC Lincoln Square in New York City on August 6, 2024. When Lively arrived on the red carpet, Baldoni and his team got literally ushered into the basement of the building. Not the main theater, the basement, a smaller screening room. Lively and author Colleen Hoover introduced the film instead of the director. Cast members started unfollowing Baldoni on social media so fast that a Sony marketing executive wrote internally, "The unfollowing has really picked up today." Then it got way worse. On December 20th, 2024, Lively filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department accusing Baldoni of sexual harassment and retaliation. 11 days later, on New Year's Eve, she escalated to a full federal lawsuit. She wasn't playing around. She wanted $500 million in damages. Baldoni fired back with his own countersuit, demanding $400 million from Lively and $250 million from the New York Times, which had published reporting on the dispute. The legal war officially kicked off, and it quickly became the messiest Hollywood battle in years. Now here's where it gets really interesting. As part of the case, hundreds of exhibits got unsealed in January 2026, and they exposed private communications that made everyone look terrible. Sony executive Andrea Janetti admitted in a deposition that she called Blake Lively a effing terrorist, while speaking to producer Jamie Heath about Lively threatening to leave the production. Another Sony executive, Sanford Panich, wrote about Lively's decision to launch her hair care brand Blake Brown alongside the film's release, calling it epic-level stupid. She wouldn't listen. She knows better. And yes, Taylor Swift got dragged into this too. Texts revealed that Lively had asked Swift for a huge favor, telling her friend, "I need help with him. Can you tell him you are excited for the movie? That you read the book, but what you're freaking out over is the script pages I sent you." Baldoni's legal team subpoenaed Swift as a potential witness. The godmother of Lively and Reynolds' children pulled directly into a courtroom battle. Then came the moment that changed everything. On April 2nd, 2026, U.S. District Judge Louis J. Lyman dropped a 152-page ruling that gutted Blake Lively's case. 10 of her 13 claims got dismissed. Gone. The harassment claims? Dismissed, because Lively was technically an independent contractor, not an employee, meaning federal sexual harassment protections didn't apply. Her California harassment claims? Dismissed, because the filming took place in New Jersey. The defamation claims? Gone. The conspiracy claims? Gone. Baldoni's legal team immediately declared victory, saying, "We're very pleased the court dismissed all sexual harassment claims and every claim brought against Baldoni and his co-defendants. These were very serious allegations, and we are grateful to the court for its careful review of the facts, law, and voluminous evidence." And here's the detail that really stings for Lively. Justin Baldoni himself isn't a defendant in any of the 3 remaining claims, not one. The remaining claims of retaliation, aiding and abetting retaliation, and breach of contract are against Wayfarer Studios, the PR firm that worked for Baldoni, and the LLC created for the film. Baldoni personally walked away from this ruling completely untouched. Now Lively's team tried to spin this as a partial win. Her attorney, Mike Gottlieb, said the dismissals were based on legal technicalities, rather than an endorsement of the defendant's conduct. And to be fair, Judge Lyman did acknowledge that Lively had presented enough evidence on retaliation for a reasonable jury to consider. He wrote that, "The reputational effects have been particularly severe given the nature of Lively's profession, which places a heavy emphasis on personal and professional marketability." But let's talk about what Lively claimed she lost because of all this. In April 2026 filings, she estimated her personal damages at somewhere between $34 and $88 million. She claimed lost profits from her companies, Betty Boo's, Betty Buzz, and Blake Brown, ranging between $39.6 and $143.5 million. She tacked on $40 million for reputational damage, citing 176 million impressions across media that linked her to terms like bully, mean girl, and tone deaf. Then, almost as an afterthought, her legal team added $250,000 to $400,000 for pain and suffering. For context, Blake Lively's estimated net worth is around $30 million. She was claiming damages potentially 10 times her entire net worth. Meanwhile, the court of public opinion has been brutal. Entertainment industry veteran Fran Weinstein, who directed Entertainment Tonight and The Insider for over 3 decades, said flatly, "At the moment, I believe that Blake is persona non grata. They don't want to go near that fire for a while." An unnamed Disney executive allegedly went even further, telling reporters, "This lawsuit has ruined her in Hollywood. The truth is she was never that popular. She had a reputation for being difficult, one of those toxic people who always thinks she knows best." Even that infamous text Lively sent Baldoni hasn't aged well. She wrote, "If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi, and like her, I happen to have a few dragons. For better or worse, but usually better. Because my dragons also protect those I fight for." In retrospect, comparing yourself to a fictional character who burned an entire city to the ground is maybe not the flex you think it is. Through all of this, Ryan Reynolds has stood by his wife. In April 2026, he said, "I've never in my life been more proud of my wife. People have no idea what's really going on, and I've just never in my life been more proud of someone with that level of integrity." Lively herself issued a statement saying, "The last thing I wanted in my life was a lawsuit, but I brought this case because of the pervasive retaliation I faced. I hope the court's decision shows others that, as unfathomably painful as it is, you can speak up. The case isn't over." The remaining 3 claims go to trial on May 18, 2026 in New York City. Settlement talks ordered by Judge Lyman were, according to Baldoni's attorney Brian Friedman, unsuccessful. But the damage is already done. What started as a $500 million lawsuit built on 13 claims has been whittled down to 3 claims, where the man she accused isn't even a defendant anymore. The Sony executives she thought were on her side were privately calling her a terrorist. The industry she built her career in is reportedly keeping its distance. And a 152-page judicial opinion laid out in painstaking detail exactly why most of her case didn't hold up under legal scrutiny. Whether that remaining trial changes the narrative or just extends the fallout, one thing's clear. This saga turned a $351 million movie into the most expensive workplace dispute in Hollywood history, and nobody's walking away from it unscathed. As the May trial date looms, the industry is already bracing for the impact of what could be a career-defining cross-examination. Legal experts suggest that if Lively takes the stand, she'll be forced to reconcile her Khaleesi persona with the stark reality of those unsealed Sony emails. The discovery process has already been a bloodbath of transparency, and with settlement talks officially dead in the water, the remaining 3 claims of retaliation and breach of contract won't just be about money, they'll be a public autopsy of how a massive film production can devolve into a scorched earth legal war. The fallout has also created a chilling effect across major studios, where the Blake Lively effect is now being discussed in hushed tones by casting directors and bond completion companies. It's no longer just about the talent or the box office draw. It's about the liability of a lead actress who might attempt to litigate the very structure of her contract mid-production. For Lively, the stakes have shifted from winning a $500 million payout to a desperate fight for professional survival, as she attempts to prove that her dragons were protectors rather than the architects of her own reputational decline.